The galaxy didn't expect much from Earth. We were late to the party, the last species to join the Galactic Accord, and nobody thought we'd last a decade among the giants of the stars. But humans are funny like that, put us in a corner, underestimate us, and we'll come out swinging. That's how I ended up stationed on Virelia Prime, the jewel of Sector 7, a human among mostly non-humans, serving as a peace liaison. What that really meant was I sat in meetings while tentacled ambassadors argued over mining rights and water disputes. Boring as hell until the day the package arrived. It wasn't a crate or a datapad like usual. It was alive. I opened the door to my assigned quarters and there she stood, trembling but upright. Slender, with iridescent violet skin that shimmered slightly under the lights, her eyes large and too bright to be anything but terrified. A collar blinked around her neck, standard Galactic slave tag, one I recognized but had never seen used on something that looked so human. I didn't speak. I couldn't. My brain stumbled over 100 thoughts, none of them useful. She just stared back, silent, waiting for something. What the hell is this? I finally muttered, slapping the control panel on the wall. Moments later, a hologram popped up. My commander, Admiral Kelther, a bipedal reptilian with no sense of humor. "Ah, the delivery's arrived," he said. "A gift from the Zargati delegation. A gesture of goodwill. You gave me a person?" Kelther's eyes blinked slowly. "She's a Jirelian. Technically not considered sentient by Accord standards." I looked back at her. Not sentient. That was crap, and we both knew it. She was afraid. She was *aware star. My gut twisted. I don't want her. Refusal would be an insult to the Zargati. Keep her, or we risk losing a critical trade deal. And just like that, I was the proud owner of an alien slave. She didn't speak for the first 3 days. She stayed in the corner of my quarters, eating only when I wasn't watching. She cleaned, though organized things I didn't know I had, mended my torn jacket with perfect stitches, reprogrammed my broken kettle. Every time I tried to talk, she flinched like I might hit her. It made me sick. So I stopped trying to talk. I started doing. I left the door open. Let her see me set the food out without looking back. I slept with my back to her, trusting she wouldn't put a knife in it. I made sure she had a bed. Clothes. Privacy. It took another week before she said her first word. "Why?" I was half asleep when I heard it. My eyes snapped open. She stood near my bunk, arms wrapped around herself, eyes wide. "Why what?" I asked, sitting up. "Why not treat me like the others did?" Her voice was soft, musical, like wind chimes in a storm. "Because I'm not like the others," I said. "Because you don't deserve to be treated like property." She stared for a long time. Then, slowly, she nodded and turned away. It was the first crack in the wall. Days turned to weeks. We developed a rhythm. She told me her name was Lysera, though it didn't exist in any Accord database. She was born in a mining colony on the edge of Jirelian space. Her people were taken when the Zargati expanded their borders. She remembered fire. Screams. Being stuffed into transport pods. Losing her brother. She didn't cry when she told me. But I did. I started asking questions, quietly, carefully, about Accord slavery laws. The loopholes. The gray areas. Turns out, the definition of sentience was built on an ancient test designed by the Tharnak Empire, which hadn't existed in over a millennium. No one's challenged it in centuries. Maybe it was time. But I had to move carefully. Lysera was still considered property in the eyes of the Accord. Any misstep, and I could be charged with theft. Or worse. We kept up the charade in public. I wore the stoic face of a slaveholder. She walked a step behind me, eyes downcast. Inside our quarters, though, things were different. We cooked together. Talked. Laughed. She laughed. That sound, it changed something in me. I'd dated humans before. But nothing like this. This wasn't about lust. It wasn't even about attraction, at least not at first. It was about trust. Safety. Healing. I found myself watching her when she wasn't looking. Noticing the way she tilted her head when curious, the way her fingers danced when she was thinking, like she was painting invisible shapes in the air. Then came the night everything shifted. A drunken merchant tried to grab her in the corridor. She didn't scream, just froze, like prey waiting to be devoured. I was halfway across the hall before I even knew I'd moved. Fist to jaw. One punch, and he was down. Security came. Papers were checked. Technically, she was mine. Technically, he'd interfered with my property. They let me off with a warning. She wouldn't meet my eyes that night. Curled up on the couch, silent. I sat beside her. Not close, just enough. You okay? She shook her head. I was ready to let it happen. I didn't think anyone would stop him. I will. Every time. And then, without a word, she leaned against me. Just leaned. And I felt the tremble run through her. No sobs. No tears. Just a quiet breaking. We sat like that for hours. And that was the night I knew. This wasn't about protection anymore. This wasn't about doing the right thing. I was in love with an alien slave the galaxy didn't even recognize as a person. And I was going to burn the system to the ground to set her free. I didn't sleep much after that night. Something in me had shifted, permanently. Every glance, every shared silence, every subtle brush of her hand against mine felt like a revelation I wasn't ready for, but couldn't deny. Lysera was still learning how to trust. But I was learning something, too, how to fight an invisible war, one that wasn't waged with weapons but with words, documents, and digital trails. The Accord bureaucracy was a leviathan. Thick with red tape, ancient laws, and protocols so convoluted even the AI assistants got confused. But I had an advantage. No one expected a human peace liaison to cause trouble. Especially not one with a reputation for boring reliability. I used it. I started filing small motions. Quiet, harmless-seeming queries. Reclassification requests. Obscure footnotes about sentience tests. I cited obscure planetary statutes buried in the Accord archives. I even found a case, centuries old, where a similar species had been granted partial rights after demonstrating symbolic thought in a courtroom. It wasn't a plan yet. It was groundwork. Foundations. And I had to be careful not to let it tie back to her. Meanwhile, our quiet rebellion continued inside our quarters. Lysera read, devoured every book and article I gave her. Human philosophy, history, fiction. She was obsessed with stories, especially ones where underdogs rose up, where love changed the course of history. She asked endless questions. Why do humans fight so much for freedom? Because we know what it means to lose it, I told her. She nodded, slowly. Then asked, do you think they'll ever see me as a person? I didn't lie. Not unless we make them. There were moments, small ones, that felt like sparks in the dark. The time she cooked an earth dish from scratch, using only what she remembered from a cooking vid. The time she beat me at chess 3 games in a row and laughed like a child seeing snow for the first time. The time I reached for her hand without thinking, and she didn't flinch. Still, danger loomed closer with each passing day. Rumors started spreading, whispers that I was too soft, too close to my property. A few colleagues stopped talking to me. One filed a formal complaint, citing inappropriate attachment. Nothing stuck. But the air around me started to change. Then, the Zargati delegation returned to Virelia Prime. They requested a meeting. Kelther summoned me to the diplomacy chamber with the urgency of a shuttle crash. I walked in, heart pounding, and found 3 Zargati officials waiting, tall, insectoid beings with chitinous skin and unblinking compound eyes. Commander Jacobs, the lead said in a voice like wind through dry leaves, we've come to reclaim our property. My jaw clenched. What property? The Durelian. The one we gifted you. She has been improperly managed. I glanced at Kelther. His tail flicked. He wasn't going to save me. She was a gift, I said evenly. Now she's mine, by Accord regulation. The lead Zargati clicked. You are not maintaining control. She has spoken in public. She walks without restriction. This is unacceptable. She isn't hurting anyone. She is a slave. I didn't blink. Didn't move. She's under my care. And as long as that's true, she'll be treated with dignity. The silence stretched too long. Then the Zargati leaned forward, eyes glinting. Perhaps it is you who needs to be corrected. They left without another word. That night, I returned to my quarters and found the door wide open. My blood froze. I rushed inside. The lights were flickering. Dishes shattered. A chair overturned. And in the middle of it all, Lysera, clutching a broken lamp like a weapon. She was panting, eyes wild. They came, she said. 3 of them. I fought, like you taught me. She was shaking, bruises on her arms. One eye swollen. I grabbed the medkit, cursing under my breath. They sent goons. While I was in the meeting. They wanted to take me. I patched her up. She didn't cry. Just stared straight ahead like she was somewhere else. This is war now, I said quietly. Then fight for me, she whispered. Like I'm real. Like I matter. The next day, I filed the motion that started it all. Petition for species sentience recognition, Jirelians. It was bold. Reckless. Career suicide. And it triggered a full-scale inquiry. The Accord Council demanded a hearing. I was summoned to present evidence. Lysera would have to testify. They'll tear me apart, she said. They'll say I'm just mimicking you. Then show them the truth. Show them who you are. We had 1 week. We prepared like soldiers. Practiced her speech, her answers. Dug through the archives for cultural records, art, language. Anything to prove the Jirelians were more than what the Zargati made them out to be. The day of the hearing, the chamber was full. Every major species had sent a delegate. Even the humans sent a rep from Earth government. I saw Kelther watching from the side, unreadable. I opened the case with a quiet, measured statement. I showed the legal precedents. Cited ancient doctrines. Made the argument that sentience is not determined by the convenience of the powerful, but by the undeniable spark of selfhood. Then Lysera stepped forward. She wore a simple robe, no collar, no bindings. Her skin shimmered under the chamber lights. She didn't look afraid. She spoke about her childhood. Her dreams. The sound of her mother's voice. The stories she told. The prayers she whispered before sleep. Then she said, simply, I think. I feel. I remember. Isn't that what makes me real? The room was silent. Then the questions began. Do you understand abstract thought? What is love? What is freedom? What is death? She answered every one. I watched hardened diplomats lean forward in their seats. I saw one Tharnak ambassador wipe a tear from her eye. The Zargati were seething, but they stayed silent. When it ended, Lysera stood tall, then turned to me. And smiled. The vote would come later. But we'd already won something. Hope. Later that night, back in our quarters, she curled up beside me on the couch. What if they say no? Then we keep fighting. But you're not alone anymore. She reached up, fingers brushing my cheek. I know. And then she kissed me. It wasn't passionate. It wasn't desperate. It was a promise. We didn't sleep that night. Not because of fear. But because the fire in both of us had finally found its match. In the dark, between whispered words and soft touches, we made a vow. No matter what came next, we were going to change the galaxy. The verdict didn't come with fanfare. No dramatic gavel slam. No anthem of victory. Just a simple datapad message 2 days later while I was halfway through a stale protein bar in the mess hall. Petition for Jirelian sentience recognition, denied. No explanation. No appeal. My first instinct was to slam my fist into the table. My second was to check the surveillance cams in our quarters. She was safe. Still inside. But I wasn't. Because right behind that message was another, marked urgent. A warrant. For me. Charges, violating diplomatic neutrality, interfering with interspecies property law, inciting unauthorized species advocacy. They were coming. And not just for me. For her, too. I ran. Through crowded corridors and gleaming halls, past towering diplomats and bureaucrats who barely glanced my way. My badge still opened doors. For now. When I reached our quarters, Lysera was sitting cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by open books and datapads. She looked up, saw my face, and didn't ask a thing. "How long?" she said. "Minutes, maybe. We've got to move." "Then let's go." She didn't hesitate. She just stood and grabbed a bag she must have packed in silence, long before I knew this moment would come. We slipped into the underlevels of Virelia Prime. Places even the Accord didn't bother to maintain. Rusted pipes, steam-filled tunnels, forgotten maintenance shafts. The city beneath the city. It was Lysera who led us. She knew this place better than I did. She'd explored every inch while I was filing paperwork and planning our liberation. "There's an old port," she said. "Subdeck 47. Smuggler ships refuel there. They don't ask questions. You trust them?" "I trust you." That made two of us who were in too deep. We reached the port just as the bounty hit the net. My face, plastered on every public screen. Rewards posted in 5 currencies. Instructions to detain on site. "They're fast," I muttered. "We'll be faster." She pulled me behind a stack of cargo crates just as a group of security drones zipped overhead, scanning. My heart was pounding, sweat slicking my back. But she wasn't afraid. She was focused. Sharp. We boarded a ship that barely deserved the name, an old freighter called the Dust Serpent. The captain was a grizzled human woman with a cybernetic eye and the worst teeth I'd ever seen. "You're in trouble," she said, looking me over. "We can pay. Eventually. We just need to disappear." She squinted at Lysera, then back at me. "This her? The one everyone's flipping over?" "Yeah." The woman smirked. "Good. 'Bout time someone flipped the galaxy off. Get in." We jumped systems that night. 2 weeks passed in motion. Hopping from fringe worlds to derelict outposts. Never staying in one place for more than a few hours. The Dust Serpent took us further than I thought possible, deep into the outer reach, where Accord law didn't stretch. Out there, life was raw. Unfiltered. Ugly, sometimes. But honest. We took odd jobs. I fixed generators. Lysera helped rebuild a water purification system on a broken colony station. The locals didn't ask questions. They saw 2 people running and figured that was enough. We didn't talk much about the failed petition. It hung between us like a wound. But in the silence, something else grew. Intimacy. Not the flashfire kind. Not desperation. But something deeper. We shared a cot on the Dust Serpent. I'd wake up with her curled against me, her breathing slow and even. She told me stories about her home, what little she remembered. I taught her Earth slang. She tried coffee for the first time and spit it out laughing. Then, one night on a mining moon with gravity half of Earth's, she danced. No music. Just starlight and the whisper of wind over dust. Her movements were slow, fluid, graceful, almost like floating. I watched her, heart tight, breath caught. "We're still not free," I said. "But we're not broken," she replied. I kissed her again. And this time, we didn't stop. The next morning, we found out the bounty had doubled. They'd declared me a rogue agent. Lysera was now classified as a fugitive asset. The Accord had issued a termination clause. If we couldn't be captured, lethal force was authorized. I stared at the screen, numb. "They're going to kill us," I said. "Then we make sure it means something," Lysera replied. "We burn it all down." She had a plan. Not just a wild hope, a real, concrete plan. "There's a relay station," she said. "In the Tiriat belt. Accord uses it to update core databases across systems. It syncs with the central servers every 72 hours. So if we upload proof of what they've done, what the Zargati did, what the council ignored, it won't be a petition anymore. It'll be a reckoning." She showed me what she'd been building, footage, documents, recordings. From the mines. From the hearing. Testimonies. Evidence of trafficking, abuse, denial of rights. "This won't just free Jarelians," she said. "It'll put the Accord on trial." I knew it would also put a target on every square inch of us. But I nodded. Let's give them a truth they can't erase. We stole a shuttle from a backwater depot and made our way toward the Tiriat belt. The relay station floated above an asteroid ring like a spider in a web, small, remote, and heavily automated. We docked just before the system sync window opened. Lysera moved like she belonged there. She hacked the first firewall in under 5 minutes. I handled the physical security, knocked out 2 patrolling bots with a pulse jammer and rerouted the backup power to give us time. Uploading, she whispered, fingers flying. 90 seconds. Alarms blared. We were out of time. The Accord had traced us. A dropship screamed into the atmosphere above the station. Armed bots deployed. My HUD lit up with threat markers. Cover me, she shouted. I moved like a ghost. Took position near the entrance hatch, rifle humming in my grip. Every shot had to count. I wasn't a soldier. I was a peace liaison who hadn't held a weapon in 5 years. But for her, I became a storm. They tried to breach. I held them. 10 seconds. More bots. Smarter ones. I took a blast to the shoulder. Pain flared. Didn't matter. 5 seconds. Done. Lysera screamed. We bolted. Raced for the shuttle. Took off under fire, hull scraping the edge of the station as we punched into space. Behind us, the relay synced. All of it, every file, every scream, every truth, was now inside the Accord's sacred database. They couldn't hide it anymore. But they could still kill us. The chase began instantly. 2 interceptors on our tail. We dodged through asteroid fields. Dove into radiation belts. Lysera rerouted power, diverted heat signatures. We were ghosts, barely staying ahead. Our ship wouldn't last. But maybe, just maybe, we didn't have to. Because in every corner of Accord space, the truth had gone viral. Whistleblowers. Protests. Civilian uprisings. Members of the council were being questioned, detained. The Zargati delegation fled their embassy. And the name Lysera, it was trending on 6 planets. The message had been heard. We might not make it. But we had lit the match that could set the galaxy on fire. The chase couldn't last forever. By the time we crossed into the nebulous edge of the Narian Expanse, our ship was falling apart. One engine coughed itself into silence, life support flickered like a dying candle, and we'd eaten the last of our protein rations 2 days ago. But we were still alive. And the galaxy was burning. Accord Central had gone into lockdown. The Zargati were under investigation for crimes against sapient life. Protests had exploded on at least 19 core worlds. Some demanded answers. Others demanded blood. And Lysera's face, the same one they once called non-sentient, had become the symbol of it all. I don't think we understood the size of the fire we'd started. Not until we limped our ship onto a refueling platform deep in the Larnis Drift, hoping just to breathe real air again. There were people waiting for us. Not soldiers. Not bounty hunters. People. A ragtag crowd of humans, Tharnax, Vrelari, even a few quiet-eyed Zarthan monks. Some wore patches from labor unions. Others had rebellion colors wrapped around their arms. They stepped forward, solemn, and handed us a sealed packet. Inside, a legal declaration. Unmistakable. Unforgeable. The Accord Council had been forced to convene. Under pressure from half a dozen member species and the largest public outcry in 3 centuries, they had overturned the previous ruling. Effective immediately, Jarelians were to be recognized as a sentient, autonomous species with full Accord rights and protections. Lysera stood frozen, reading it again and again, as if afraid it would vanish. "It's real," I whispered. "We did it." She looked up at me. Her lips trembled. "Then why does it still hurt?" I didn't have an answer. Because the scars didn't disappear with a signature. Because freedom was more than a law, it was a process. A fight. Still, the relief hit us like gravity. For the first time in months, we could breathe. They offered us asylum on a neutral planet called Sereth, a quiet place, mostly wilderness and oceans, far from the claws of power. We took it. The house they gave us was small. Modest. A one-room cottage on a cliff overlooking a deep blue sea. We planted a garden. Built a real bed. cooked over fire like old Earth settlers. And slowly, we healed. Lysera began writing stories, essays, declarations of identity. She started an interspecies initiative, connecting former slaves, refugees, and those still trapped in the legal gray zones of the Accord. Her words spread like wildfire across the net. People listened. And more importantly, people changed. I taught at a local academy, just a few hours a week. Ethics and history. The irony wasn't lost on me. Sometimes, people came to visit. Activists, students, journalists. They always wanted to speak to her. She smiled, answered every question with grace. But she never let them turn her into a symbol again. She was a person, not a banner. One evening, long after the sun had dipped into the sea and left the sky bruised and glowing, we sat on the edge of our little porch, feet dangling over the grass. She leaned into me. They wanted me to be silent. And you became the voice of a movement. They wanted you gone. I smiled. I'm still here. She turned to me. Was it worth it? I didn't have to think. Every second. Every scar. I'd do it again. She kissed me then. Long, deep. Certain. And in that kiss, I felt everything, the pain, the hope, the defiance, the love. The galaxy didn't change in a day. Injustice still lingered, and new challenges always rose. But somewhere out there, a child born on a mining world could now dream of more. Because two people, thrown together by cruelty and chance, chose not to look away. They chose to fight. They chose love. And the galaxy would never be the same again. Moral of the story ***. True freedom begins when we see each other as people, not labels, not species, not roles. Systems built on oppression can be dismantled not with firepower, but with courage, truth, and compassion. Love, especially the kind that defies boundaries, has the power to change not just hearts, but worlds. No matter how dark the stars seem, light can still rise. Even from the unlikeliest of places.